The dining room smelled of roasted turkey and pine. Plates clinked, glasses murmured with conversation, the soft hum of a Christmas Eve gathering. I had just poured myself a glass of wine when my brother stood up, glass trembling slightly, and announced what everyone already knew in their own half-formed suspicions. Our parents had handed him the catering empire I had built from scratch. "You're getting nothing," he said, with a grin meant to land like a hammer. I set my glass down carefully. Time slowed. I studied my father's face, calm, measured, almost amused, but with eyes that held a secret. My mother's lips pressed together, the shadow of a frown flickering and vanishing as quickly as it appeared. For a moment, imagined everything I had poured into that business, the midnight calls to suppliers, the early mornings balancing accounts, the dinners missed, the patience worn thin. Every small victory, every quiet success, handed to someone else as if it were nothing. Could feel my blood pulse behind my eyes, but outwardly I remained still. I picked up my wine again, swirling it lightly, listening to the faint pop of corks and laughter that didn't reach my ears. My brother's grin widened, unaware that my silence was not weakness but calculation. I remembered how he had always underestimated me, how our parents had always intervened on his behalf, smoothing his way when I had no one but myself. Considered telling him the truth immediately. The empire was not as golden as it seemed. It came with debts, 2 million in liabilities that had been quietly accumulating. He would inherit it all. The thought of his pride crumbling was almost satisfying, but only almost. I had to be careful. I had to choose the timing, the tone, the weight of each word. I looked at my father. His gaze was steady, a subtle cue that this was the moment. Father's presence had always been the anchor in our family storms. Now it was the lever. "Should I tell him?" I asked softly, raising my glass. "He just inherited 2 million in debt, or do you want to?" The silence hit first. My brother froze mid-smile. Edges of the room seemed to shrink as everyone processed the pause, the implication. I sipped my wine slowly, deliberately. The gravity settled in. The tables had turned quietly, imperceptibly, yet undeniably. He stumbled over words, half laughing, arguing, but the color drained from his face. Pride faltered, confidence cracked. I didn't gloat. I didn't raise my voice. Victory was in the restraint, in the knowledge that truth carried weight, that arrogance could not withstand. My parents watched, expressions neutral but satisfied. The moment was clear authority had intervened, subtly yet effectively. The room felt different. Nothing had been shouted, nothing had been broken. Yet the power balance had shifted irrevocably. I thought of all the years, the quiet accumulation of effort and resilience. All that work, once invisible, had finally found its leverage not in anger or revenge, awareness, patience, and timing. Dinner continued awkwardly polite, the clinking of silverware punctuating the unspoken truths that now hovered in the air. I felt a calm settle over me, not triumph, not cruelty, but clarity. The world had shifted, not dramatically, not violently, but in a way that mattered. My brother had been forced to step into reality, and I had maintained my dignity without a single raised voice. As the evening wore on, realized that nothing had been solved. The family was still complicated, the relationships frail, the resentment latent. I had reclaimed what mattered most: my agency, my composure, my quiet authority. It was not a story of vindictive revenge, measured presence. Later, when the lights dimmed and guests began to leave, I lingered by the window, glass in hand. Outside, snow fell softly, indifferent to human drama. I thought about what it meant to win quietly, to assert power through presence and knowledge rather than force. The holiday felt heavier, but strangely lighter at the same time. The debts, literal and emotional, were now fully visible, and I could move forward knowing exactly where I stood. That quiet reflection, I understood something essential: life rarely rewards drama, but it always notices preparation, patience, and restraint. And sometimes, the calmest sip of wine carries the most weight.